This is James Holder for iFL TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. We're in Washington. It's the aftermath, the day after James DeGALE retained his IBF world title. With me, I've got none other than Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, you know, like if I was doing that with Coogan, you'd go, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But you just
try to ignore you.
You couldn't. People can't see your hat. You've gone a bit street today.
I have, but
I've changed my look because I wore Jordan one on the thing, and someone tweeted me an absolute classic.
Go on.
He was like, "Eddie, I don't want to be rude, but you're nearly 40, and you're wearing Air Jordan tracksuits, mate. Stop it." I was like, I went back. I went, "Listen, it's comfy, mate." He went, "Mate, it's wrong." And I thought about it, and I thought, he's probably right. I don't see myself as... I'm 37 this year.
You're a year younger than Beauty.
How old are you?
I'm 32 on Tuesdays.
Mm.
It's quite interesting. There's quite a big gap between us.
I'm a year older than Beauty.
Yeah.
But I'm a year and a half younger than Froch.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I don't feel 37.
No, 37 is a sort of weird age, isn't it? It's sort of,
I feel more like sort of 28, something like that.
Do you think when you get to like sort of 28, you mentally don't age anymore? You just stay the same?
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, swiftly moving on. James DeGALE retaining his IBF world title last night in Washington. A bit disappointing for James in himself, the way he sort of, well, in terms of the result, I suppose in his own head he was predicting he was going to take Medina out. How do you assess the performance?
I think everybody felt like it would be an easier night than it was. So the initial response was, or feeling was, disappointment that he hadn't stopped him or had a more comfortable performance. Sometimes when you're going into a mandatory fight like that, don't forget the original mandatory pulled out, so Medina got a shot from nowhere, and you know, he was up in Big Bear for 8 weeks. His countryman Ramirez just won the world title as well, so he would have been hyped and pumped for that fight. So I think it was a good performance from James, not sensational, but I think at the same time he didn't have the fear factor. You know, he was sitting on the ropes, willing to ride shots and duck shots because he never felt in any trouble or bother against Medina, but Medina was nicking rounds while that was happening. So credit to Medina, I thought he was great. He didn't stop all night, he was incredibly fit. And you know, a good win, a good TV fight. I think it could have been different. You know, it could have been a boring fight, or it could have been a blowout. But as it turned out, it was a good fight for TV. Sometimes it's quite difficult because I'm thinking about sometimes the fight for TV, and you get like trainers who are more thinking about tactics for winning a fight. But fighters have got to understand that you've got to be entertaining, and sometimes that can be to the detriment of your game plan or the right way to go about that fight. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does
so,
make sense.
You know, you might be able to win a fight with ease, but bore the pants off of everyone. That's
but DeGALE could have had a shutout win if he
maybe not. But James is slick enough and good enough to stand Medina on his head, but he chose to call him back to the ropes, sit there, and you know, that's where he took his punishment. And it was very flat in there last night. You know, I don't know how many was in there, but it weren't many, and the atmosphere weren't really there. And again, you've got to be a pro, and he was. But it doesn't matter how professional you are. You buzz off, you thrive off the energy that's in the arena, and that's the kind of thing that gets you sharp. And that wasn't there. So, look, he got the win. It was a good fight. Felt like he won by 3 or 4 rounds. And on to the next one.
There was a bit of hostility between them. I think it was probably in the 8th or 9th round. Medina sort of spat and sneezed at DeGALE all at once. He wasn't warned for that, but he sort of irritated him, didn't he?
He just went like that and then
sneezed
weird. And spat, or intentionally. Did the spit come before the sneeze?
I think it did.
So was it like?
It was
or weird. Was it like?
It was more like just.
Or was it all at once?
It was a conducive flow of stuff.
Conducive flow.
It wasn't
from
great.
Here and here, like double trajectory.
I can see James wasn't best pleased about it.
No,
I
think he was a bit frustrated, James, because he felt like it should have been an easier night. But Medina was relentless, you know, and you know he could be a future opponent for, well, a number of people at 168, but even some of our guys, Callum Smith, Martin Murray, George Groves, Rocky Fielding, these guys, you know. It's, I think he'd be entertaining. I think British fight fans would like to see him.
BADOU Jack's obviously got a majority draw against Lucien Butte. He obviously thinks he won the fight. What do you think the scoring was correct in that result in awarding?
Again, look, judging's subjective, isn't it? Normally, it's the home fighter, and the champion that would get the rub of the green. And last night, I felt like Lucien Boutte got a bit of a gift. I only gave it to Jack by 2 or 3 rounds. So, again, judging's subjective, isn't it? 1 or 2 rounds difference is not a huge amount. But, you know, I was surprised that Jack didn't get it. Jack. I said to Floyd after, you know, me pal Floyd, I said, didn't like that scoring, Floyd. He went, man, that's a disgrace. I went, Floyd, all the money you paid the WBC in sanction fees over the years. He said, I'm going to call Maurizio Sulaiman. And he was right. It was poor scoring, but it wasn't a disgrace. I didn't feel like it was a disgrace, but I think the majority of people felt like Jack should have won.
Maurizio Sulaiman tweeted out yesterday that he will be looking at the judges and at the decision.
I just spoke to him on the phone 2 minutes before his interview, and he said to me he was really disappointed with the judges scoring. And I said, yeah. So I thought it was poor, but I would say I only scored it 2 or 3 rounds. So a draw's not like, it wasn't one of the worst decisions of all time, but I think they got it wrong.
What did you make of BADOU Jack's comments that it's prejudice against the money team and Mayweather? The fact that he hasn't, in his last 3 fights, he hasn't had a unanimous decision. It's been majority decisions. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there is a sort of conspiracy against the Mayweather camp?
Let me tell you, I mean, and we get this all the time. We had it with Josh Warrington the other week, Stuart Hall scoring. You know, there's no corruption in boxing and scoring and judges. Some judges see it different to others, and some just aren't good enough. And like, for instance, the Warrington against Amagasa fight, Warrington won by 3 or 4 rounds, 120, 107. And again, I know this is a strange thing to say, but if you're going to be dodgy or corrupt, you don't score it 120, 107. You just, you know, you make it so that no one will see. But it doesn't work like that in boxing anyway. So the judge just wasn't good enough. He listened to the crowd in Leeds rather than watching the fight. So,
what would you like to see to improve the standard of judges? Do you think ex-fighters
should
be included in the judging process?
Ex-fighters are definitely going to have a better understanding of, you know.
But then how can you guarantee a fight would be unbiased? But
look at Jim Watt,
for instance.
You know, Jim Watt comes under criticism all the time for his scoring. He's a former world champion, so he's more qualified probably than all of us to score. But boxing's subjective, James. You could say, oh, I had him winning that by 2 rounds. Who are you?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? You're just a bloke like these people who've got an opinion. Like, what about me? Oh, that's the disgraceful scoring. He won by 4 rounds. Says who? Says you. That's it. But when you get a situation where like 90% of people felt that it was this score, you have to think that it's more than likely that the other 10% were wrong. But again, when you've got a situation where the scoring is subjective, and you know.
The unification clash now, all the talk from that last night, the general consensus is that James wants to come to the UK to have that. Could we potentially then see Callum Smith fight Porky Medina on the undercard to light the touch paper for Callum Smith potentially versus the winner of James DeGALE?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think,
BADOU Jack.
You know, Callum's in a great situation where he's #1 challenger for the world title. So you have to think, do you want to be involved in a really tough fight? I actually don't think Porky Medina is a tough fight for Callum Smith, but Callum and Joe Gallagher might think that's not the fight we want at this stage, when we just got to sit tight and we get the shot. You have to ask yourself, what would happen if Callum Smith boxed Porky Medina?
All right, let's play a little game then. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right, if Callum Smith was to face Porky Medina tomorrow, would he stop Porky Medina?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. If Callum Smith was to face Lucien Boutte the day after, would he stop Lucien Boutte, in your opinion? Interesting. So now we've come to, obviously, BADOU Jack. I'm going to ask you the same question regarding BADOU Jack. Would he beat BADOU Jack at this moment in time?
Yes. And he'd stop him.
All right, now let's come to the point that we're leading up to.
That. I don't know the answer.
Would he beat James DeGALE?
I don't know is the answer. I mean, would he have beaten James DeGALE in that performance last night? You know, when James DeGALE is on fire, he's very, very difficult to beat. Very difficult to beat. He's got skills to burn. You know, Callum is a huge puncher. Huge puncher. And that could end up being a huge fight. So there's your fence sitting on that one. But James has proved himself at the highest level. You know, and the Andre Durrell victory is, you know, it's a great win. and he beats BADOU Jack. I mean, you know, we've got BADOU Jack surrounded. You know, he either has to fight James DeGALE or Callum Smith, right? Well, he's getting beat by both of them, so I don't know what he's going to do. But Callum's in a great position. Like I say, he wants to get rounds. He's going to get better in every fight, over every round. And now he's just come over my shoulder. You know what I mean? I was you know, he's going to get better and better. So I think the point to bring him out here was to, one, see all those guys live. Two, a little bit exposure with the US media as well. Obviously work for Sky, and also realise how lucky he is to box in the UK. You know, like we were walking around last night, saying this is a double header, super middleweight world title night.
Less people than at a packed York Hall, in your opinion?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, isn't it? With the amount of money and revenue.
But you know what it is,
in
James,
America.
is in England, we are reliant upon gate receipts. So the gate receipts are up here and the TV revenue is down here. Do you get that?
I get it. Yeah.
In America, it's like that. So people are lazy. They don't need the gate. We're desperate for the gate because without the gate, we can't make money. If you don't sell tickets, you can't make money. So we're grafting non-stop to shift tickets. These guys, over the years, have been like, yeah, give them away, don't matter. Yeah, we've got all the TV revenue. Now, the game's changing where there's time buyers and there isn't the revenue coming in from the broadcasters, but they're now saying, blimey, we've got to move the gate. But it's a fundamental problem in American boxing. It's not just going to change like that overnight. It's not a case of going in up the town and shifting a few posters and, you know, giving a few flyers out. It's changing the image of boxing and making sure that you build fighters locally, because that's the difference in England. You know, if Callum Smith's at a level now where he could box in London and they'd sell tickets, but we've had to build him in Liverpool, and that's what you do. It's not rocket science. Where was the fighters last night from Washington?
There was 0 fighters from Washington.
I know. That's why I said it.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you was asking me a question. I didn't realise it was rhetorical. Sorry.
So last night you had a Brit against a Mexican and a Canadian Romanian against a Swedish Gambian who lives in Vegas. It's like, you know. But again, they're not really that bothered. It's just, but I just feel like it's the product. When you turn on your TV, the first thing you go is, not much atmosphere there. Look at those empty seats. Rather than, wow, look at that. That place is jumping. I'm going to watch this. Again, maybe it's just common sense to me, but I hope I'm putting it across in a way that does make sense. You look at me like you're very confused.
I want to ask you a little bit about the press conference last night. James DeGale's come in for a lot of criticism for his sort of what he said to Porky Medina during the press conference, his mannerisms, his actions. Firstly, you were sitting next to him. What was going through your mind at that point?
James is James, and I'd never tell a fighter to act differently. You got to just be yourself. I wouldn't have put the two fighters on the same table anyway. I mean, they clearly didn't get on in the ring. And you've got one guy who really got the opportunity of a lifetime being there in Porky Medina. And by the way, he was fantastic. And you've got another guy who feels like he's the best fighter in the world. And you've got Porky Medina saying, I should have beaten him, I want the rematch. And it got James's back up. So, you know, whether people feel like he was arrogant or that's just, you know, James was being James. And some things he's a little bit with a pinch of salt, but I don't think he really wanted to be there talking about Porky Medina. You know, he felt like he beat him, and he did beat him, 100%, fair and square. But
was he wrong to brand him the worst mandatory challenger ever, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, pre-fight, maybe not, but post-fight, no, because he earned his call. And, you know, I thought Porky Medina done really well. And I don't think James really meant that. You know, James was... You know.
I think the spitting thing wound him up a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, it would do.
The first thing he said to me was, did you see him spit at me?
There's nothing worse. I think there is nothing worse than being spat at. You could stick the nut on me, you could hit me around the back of the head when I weren't looking, but if you spit at someone, for me personally, that's the worst. So, and that's the one thing that would probably make me lose my reg. So if you're out there and you hate me, spit at me next time you see me if you want to go.
I want to talk a little bit about what was happening with Leonard Ellerby and Floyd Mayweather last night and yourself. I've heard rumours, we spoke about this as well, that the link up between Matchroom and Floyd Mayweather Promotions is that much closer to coming, and potentially in the UK. Can you sort of elaborate on that?
Yeah, we had a great meeting, and basically they've got a lot of fighters at TMT now, and probably not enough TV dates, so they're looking to see what they can do with some of their fighters. They like what we're doing, I like what they're doing. I think the two brands mix well, and we had an idea that it would be Mayweather Promotions against Matchroom Boxing, kind of team event, 5 or 6 championship fights. Obviously Floyd would be over, probably have a little spin-off TV series, like a mini contender would be fun. Also some kind of big cash bonus for the team. So it's a kind of team event. You know, so you've got your Matchroom branded fighters, your Mayweather branded fighters, and then the purses, and then a tournament bonus for the winning team. So everyone's on side, shouting ringside, you know, a bit like Contender. And there's some good fights to be made. I mean, you know, obviously the one people presume straight away is Jay Leon Love against Rocky Fielding, yes. Ashley Theophane's been in a good fight. He could fight Ricky Burns in a first defence, or we've got other light welters as well, plenty of them. You know, they've got 135 pounders like Mickey Bay, who's fighting for the world title. If he wins, he could come off and fight CROLLA in a unification, or Campbell for the world title. You know, you've got Miller, their light heavyweight. You know, we've got plenty of light heavyweights standing by. Jose Burton, Callum Johnson. There's a couple of cruiserweights, Andrew Tabatabi. Yeah, loads of fighters to match. So you're probably going to see that around September time. And we're just putting the final touches to it now, but it's exciting. It's gone down well.
Do you think that's testament to how much British boxing is booming at the moment? The fact that these guys are wanting to come to the UK. Do you think British boxing is holding the golden ball at the moment, Ed?
Yeah, I think if you're looking out to in, you look at the British boxing market and you think, wow. And people will see it, and they are seeing it, and saying, I want a piece of that pie. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. You know, it's like me looking at the US market and saying, oh, I want to crack the US market. You have to have the right broadcaster. If you haven't got dates, there's no point even, you know, trying to be a televised promoter or putting on big shows. And you know, it's like me. If I just rocked into the US, would I get half a dozen dates from Showtime or HBO? No. Will I get them soon? Maybe. Will I get them in time? Yes, 100%. But you know, there'll be other promoters, and there are promotional companies looking at starting things in the UK because it's a red hot market. And other social media, you know, boxing video channels who are looking to come to the UK and take the market share as well.
Yeah, don't worry, we're ready for them.
You ready, yeah?
We're ready. We're ready. It's what I film. I just want to talk a little bit about the shocking revelation that you and James DeGALE fell out over Joshua tickets.
No, that's what you said in your video.
That was
just
what
everyone know, whenever you see a title from IFL, most of the time it's done from James Helder, and most of the time it's total bollocks.
I was really proud of it.
Shocking revelation.
It took me about 10 minutes to decide on that.
The worst thing was that it was about 15 minutes in, so people are watching, waiting for the shocking revelation that never comes. And they watch it, and the video finishes, and they go, "What was it? What was the shocking revelation?"
Fair, I thought people enjoyed that one. I thought you
only because it's almost like not believable.
Yeah. So is there sort of any? Is there more to this? Is it? Are you playing it down, Ed? Are you saying that there's not more to this sort of?
What, the fallout with James DeGALE?
Yeah.
No. I mean, from a relationship point of view, like a personal relationship, no. From a business point of view, of course, when he decided to box in America, our involvement is much less. So therefore, you're just not going to be as close and as hands-on. James wants to box in the UK. So, our agreement states that I'm the guy to do that. And, we've got another fight with him, and that'll be the unification fight. The future, I don't know. I'm easy. I always say to you, like, if a fighter doesn't want to work with me, and I'm not gonna like hold fighters down. We believe we've got the best platform, best broadcaster, and best promotional company out there. And if you don't want to be with us, go and do your thing. We still be pals.
Sorry about that, mate. Just had to change the battery. We are back on course. Battery. I want to talk a little bit about Anthony CROLLA, Ismael Barroso, danger zone back in the UK this week. Big fight for CROLLA, probably his toughest fight to date. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, without any doubt. I mean, look, the Darlis Perez was a huge step up for him. And Barroso is, in terms of dangerous fights, probably the most dangerous fight in the division. but one, he's our mandatory. Could we have swerved him? Maybe, but CROLLA didn't want to swerve him. You know, and everyone assumed he'd swerve him. So I think he's getting a lot of respect. And I think if you go out and beat someone like Barroso, I think if he beats Barroso, he's the number 135 pounder in the world. You know, I think he'd have the best resume of wins. You know, of all the champions. And you know, I think he's going to go on to big things. Very, very tough fight. He's the underdog in the fight, but I think he's underrated. How good is Barroso? You know, did he fight a Mitchell that was at the end of the road? Yes, we know he did, but he still looks sensational. So it's a big fight.
We said you see it harder as the Darley's Perez fight, but with the advantage of being in his own backyard, not having to travel, do those things make a big difference in your opinion?
They do, small percentages, but you know, he's got great support. We know. I just think it's the belief more than anything. You know, when you go on to win a world title, you finally believe that you're at that level, and he's proved he's at that level. His confidence has grown over the recent times. He's become a lot stronger mentally and physically. I mean, you know, the transformation since he's been doing his strength and conditioning. You know, he's come up from super featherweight, and he was never a big lightweight, but now he looks like a really strong lightweight. And but so is Barroso. So it's a great fight. I think that could be fight of the year.
If he comes through this, speaking of someone that's come up from super featherweight, Terry
not me.
Terry Flanagan.
Oh, right.
And I want to mention Terry Flanagan. Potentially big unification Manchester clash. It makes sense from sort of all parties.
Yeah, definitely.
Can it happen?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the main problem you got is that, you know, CROLLA's earning a lot of money. You know, so the initial offers made weren't anywhere near what I'd want to pay Anthony CROLLA for that fight.
So we're talking a £500,000 offer.
Correct.
Would that be what you're referring to?
Yeah. So, but, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but Terry Flanagan's on much, much less than Anthony CROLLA. So, what does Flanagan think he's getting $500,000 as well? Presumably, I'm not even sure that's been discussed with him. And when people talk about, you know, sealed bids, how can you have one guy who's, you know, boxing on a small platform in front of, you know, limited numbers in the arena against another guy who's earning 3 times as much money as him, boxing on Sky in front of big crowds? And the other argument would be, well, they're both world champions, just 50-50. I disagree, personally. But I look at it more from a commercial angle rather than maybe a fight fan's mentality is, well, they're both champions. Yeah. But fighters don't think like that. So, I don't know. But in answer to your question, I'd love to make that fight. Anthony would love to make that fight. I think Terry's going to box on the Klitschko bill by the sounds of things. And Anthony might be out end of summer himself, you know, in a voluntary. I'd quite like him to have a voluntary. I'd like to bring some British fights in. You know, if it's not Terry, you know, maybe it's Derry, maybe it's Campbell, I don't know. But I'd like to see some domestic matchups flowing.
Eddie, before we go, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about
what's going on. Like 3 questions ago.
What's going on across the pond? Amir Khan taking on Saul Canelo Alvarez. Massive fight. Firstly, what chances do you give Amir Khan of being successful out in Vegas?
Look, although people think I can't stand Amir Khan, not true. I actually FaceTimed with Amir the other night.
How did that go?
Well, no, it was Callum doing it with his brother because he was out there, but Amir came on, I just waved, that was it.
You gate crashed the FaceTime,
yeah, I did,
basically.
Yeah. But I like him, and I think he's a great fighter, and I hope he wins. But if you ask me the honest question, I think he's getting stopped. Wow. And I hope I'm wrong. But that seems to be the general consensus of everyone in boxing.
Okay.
So,
the fact that Canelo's not a concussive puncher, not a one-bang merchant, that gives
James Kirkland might not agree with you.
Big statement.
But you're talking about a guy that's come up from, you know, super feather lightweight. He doesn't look as though he's comfortable in that weight within his body, you know. And I'm not sure he'd have the same speed. Will he carry enough power at that kind of weight? I think Amir is an unbelievable boxer with skills to burn. So can he cause Canelo problems? Yeah, for sure. When he chooses to engage, which he'll have to at times, can he stand up to Canelo's power? And I know he's not. You're right in what you say. He's not the biggest punch in light middleweight or middleweight in the world, but he can bang. And, you know. If
Amir Khan does win, does that make the Kell Brook fight less likely, in your opinion?
It's still the biggest fight out there. I mean, he would have earned, not say double, but I don't think it would have been far off for the Kell Brook fight. But it's just always, again, look, I don't think he wants to lose track to Kell Brook. I'm not saying he would lose to Kell-Brook, but that has to be in the mind. If you lose to Canelo up at middleweight, everyone goes, wow, you're a hero for taking that fight, well done. And then maybe you fight Kell-Brook after. So we'll see what happens. I mean, look, we're trying to make our own fight for Kell, but the Khan fight is still the one we'd love to make.
Any news, anything you can tell me on Kell?
Loads of meetings. Bradley, Vargas, Peterson, Broner, Berto.
Good win for Berto yesterday.
Yeah. I think he's going to, all of a sudden, Berto's going to think that he's on another level to where he is. But, all these guys, anyone that wants it, Kell will fight any of them in England or America.
All right, well, listen, on that note, thank you for giving me some time today. I do appreciate it, and I'll leave you to go and do your next workout.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.